All right. Testing 985634712. I believe we are live, and this is a video to Gary the Giant Ridiculer. I seem to have various audios. All right, first of all, Gary, you were very rude in this video, as usual, of course. Not saying much there. And I tried to remember, okay, I'd said some things. That was probably my harshest criticism of antinatalism uh, in a while. Um, but I slipped in there. You might have felt that was slipped in. And so I try to understand that that's just how you're not that clever with the wordplay. So I understand that's just how you react. But you say some things that aren't get out of the way. Um, that would be lying. Um, Except for I don't think you're lying. I mean, we've had conversations. These are things. Now there's many things you obviously are oblivious to what my position is, though I've made it very clear, and other people on here understand the position, and you don't get it. So there's some of those, but there's the worst things. That's fine with me, but the worst thing is that the things where I know you get them in the sense that we've talked uh, in Hangouts or stick 'em about these things, and then you still say them, and it makes it like a lie. But I think it's just a kind of dementia where you get some sort of amnesia, a temporary amnesia sets in when you start ranting. So the part where you call me like that I was against raising inheritance tax and that I wasn't against nepotism, and I'm an example of the asshole American that was all confused, and that's not really a sensible thing to say since it makes you a liar. You know that's not true, that I agree with you on those things. Um, and also, I don't think it's really cool to say that I celebrate having children. I don't think I ever did in this conversation celebrate that per se. Um, you have to be using that word pretty loosely, but after what happened to me with my daughters, I don't think I'm really celebrating that. What it is, I celebrate is the right to individual solutions. Like I'm pro-choice, but if some pro-lifer says I celebrate abortion, no, I'd say no. Gary celebrates abortion. I just celebrate the individual liberty that decisions have to be made by people, individuals. Sometimes there's decisions I don't want to make for other people. Like I wouldn't want you, Gary, to be running the decisions for my life. That would not be okay. That would not be acceptable. And I don't want to make decisions in your life because, unlike you, I would then have to look into the particular situation that you're in way more detail than I have time for. So I want to leave certain decisions, inherently all decisions, except for should you be violent to other people. That one, I'll go ahead and help make that decision that we're not going to let people get away with that. Other than that, I think uh, I'm essentially pro-choice about biological matters. So I think that's kind of shitty, acting like I support Trump and yada yada yada. You just go over the top with those kind of characterizations. I don't think it's necessarily over the top. The part that I've already accepted is that you're gonna misrepresent. I mean, I like to assume because you've misunderstood, but maybe you're just a big fat liar. Um, you misrepresent something uh, or misunderstand it, and then go, yeah, that's why you're stupid. I understand you think that I understand you, and if I mischaracterize you because I'm so smart, I must be lying. And that if I'm wrong, I probably know the truth and must be lying. I understand you think that. And I also understand you think that anybody that disagrees with you can't possibly have a valid opinion. I can handle those, but I don't really think that you should lie about things like the call me pantheist, fine, but then you said what you meant by that was, which I'm not pantheist, but we could debate what you meant by that. But what you said you meant was that I think humans are special I deny that animals have the same inner emotional life. No. As a matter of fact, we've discussed this for years, and I think that that inner emotional life goes way further down to this less complex forms of life than you do. So, and we've talked so much about that. I just assume you have temporary amnesia, and what looks like just a out of your ass lie, the total opposite of the truth. You're the one that thinks humans are special, and you can decide this for other animals, and you're the one that thinks that for secular reasons, but you still think that. It's not an example of something you could have just misunderstood in the sense we've talked about it for years. We've argued about it. I've said, yeah, it includes bugs. And you were like, oh, I'm not sure. But then came around, yeah, it includes bugs. Oh, but it doesn't, not all bugs necessarily. Certainly not anything smaller than a bug. Whatever counts as a bug, you could tell us later because you don't have a system that would tell us how to find out any truths. And when you die, we're all lost because the way you do it is you just ask Gary, what's the nature of photon? What kind of suffering matters? Going hungry is not real suffering, but what about getting your shoe banged on with the nail? All right, so I'll go backwards through these notes, which all came from things you said. Um, you ended up with like, who pays? I never said who pays. We've been talking about who pays. You came into my hangout. We talked about who pays. I said in my video, you responded to the point in the video. Who pays? The wealthy have to pay. They're not paying taxes. That's where the money is. And not just wealthy people, but wealthy organizations. And they don't even have to have it taken as taxes if they would circulate it back into the economy like they're supposed to and invest in businesses. But they're like, we don't want to do that until you guarantee that we make more money. And it's like, if we keep giving you our money, what good does it do to put your money into the system if we're going to guarantee you get more back? It's not really a good deal. So we've talked about who pays. There's no doubt about who pays or where the money for this comes. We could argue about what the structure. Can you get it all through an inheritance tax? You know, how far down do you go? Everybody? Probably, right? You'd say you just 100% inheritance tax. Okay, do the math. Can you pass that, Mister? You got to be practical. What people will want. You can't do something 80% of the people don't want. Well, maybe you should look up the polling numbers on the death tax if that's so important to you. The math on the land tax, could do that math. Or we already have a tax system. We could just raise the progressive tax rate since we're already at a point where the CEOs are paying less than their secretaries. That's where the money comes from. How you get it back into the economy, whether it's one of those three taxes or some way of making them, like just tax money that sits in an account too long, then make them put it back into the economy. There is a million ideas we probably never even thought of. That's where the money comes from. And again, you know that. I know you know that. We've talked about that. So when you make your video, it's hard to tell whether you just are having aphasia, a dementia is setting in, and you're having a temporary amnesia, and you don't even really remember who you're talking to for 5 and 30 seconds at a time, or you want to present a certain structure of argument on your channel because you're a fake, so you lie like so many other people. I don't know which it is. This is not actually a problem I have to solve. All I have to solve is deciding whether to watch your videos and, whether I can stomach it, whether it's productive for me. Because really, I understand your ideas very well. You could ask me about some of your ideas, and I could state them in ways that would be fair to you. In other words, you go, yeah, that's a way of putting it. And you can't do that for anybody else because if you did know such a way of putting someone else's argument, you'd shit on it on the way because you just can't stand it. You have to be the single authority. You have to save the world or it can't be saved, and therefore you want to give up. You want the whole species to give up, and we're not going to. And if you want to insult me about having had kids, uh, I think at this point that's pretty scummy. Um, I obviously think immigrants' kids will not continue to be fanatics. I think when they're over in the other country with no freedom that can happen. But once they come here, they're going to become entitled cell phone kids, and they're going to have sex. They're not going to follow the unfun rules of a religion that when they know the options. You don't know how that's how that works, but that is how it works. It's just something maybe you can see it, but this dementia, while you're thinking about it, kicks in and you forget what you're thinking about, and suddenly you're yelling at something else and accidentally not understanding how history works, right? People move over here with their religion, but it doesn't stay that long. Even in America, where everybody still says they were religious, in reality, for 100 years, people lose their religion in America. Now, you like enslaving people in other countries. You don't want them over here because we can't compete with them, but we got to. You say it's inevitable. We got to buy the shoes from the sweatshops in Bangladesh. And you like doing that. Their suffering doesn't matter to you. I don't get I don't get that. Um, you said Hillary did nothing about immigration to convey immigration. Well, actually, she did. She did it in the regular way, these DLC third way Democrats, but people wouldn't listen. People wouldn't believe her. You wouldn't believe her. Instead, you're going, gee, I said open borders. No, she meant open borders for the businesses, which is what you like. You like an open border for businesses. You said that. NAFTA was inevitable. All of those were inevitable. Open borders is fine with the business. That's the open border she was talking about, not about people. She said very specifically and on her website, but nobody goes, yeah, she's a bad marketer. But you said she never said anything or conveyed it. She said this in the debates, and it came up in the debates that she wants more fences and blah, 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 but not a wall. She basically, what Trump has said it'll be now. She said that. And on top of that, she was Obama's third term. And I know you know sometimes, but I think when this aphasic dementia amnesia, where you start um, forgetting what you're talking about, so it seems to us that you're making up lies about other people, so that you don't have to acknowledge their arguments at all, or even their humanity in any way. Normally, when that's not happening, you probably know that Obama has deported more illegal aliens than W. He's been going gangbusters. And Hillary supported that. So you're paranoia that, but she should say it's more important. No, she shouldn't, because she's trying not to piss off my wing of the party. But then your wing of the party is so stupid, you vote for Trump. Well, maybe I just forgot what your real position was. If you, the things you say about me, it's just it's equivalent. You have such a low bar. You vote for Trump when I said that because, by the way, it means that because you don't understand, you marketed our party wrong. Here's another thing people need to realize. This is not from the notes. Sorry, it's asterisks. Um, because like I watch Sam Cedar, one of the few things I have time to watch every day. Listen to it while I work. You should try it. Working. Um, that wasn't to you, Gary. I just mean everybody should try working. I know you. I know you work. Take care of. You do all kinds of stuff. Though you don't work as many hours as me, so I don't have time to go look up what Jesus Freaks' daughter's specific medical condition is. I didn't need that information. But Sam Cedar's really pissed off at the people that are still arguing, like Jimmy Dore, and that this is, it's better than Hillary still in some sense. I obviously agree with Sam. It's not better. On the other hand, you can't think those people that, even with Trump running, refused to vote for Hillary Clinton. They're not your voters. You can't assume they were supposed to vote with your coalition. Hey, why are you on my side and you didn't? They're not on your side. And it goes the other way too. Jimmy Dore going, well, look now, they're Democrats. Everybody will come together because we have to. No, that doesn't have to happen. In fact, That's not true. This kind of stress, it's like when a family has bad things happen to it, oh, they get tighter and they always hold on tighter. No, not always. It often breaks families up. Terminal illness, non terminal illness, storms. So you and I are not in the same party, right? You're not in the same party. And you had every ability to get the news out that Hillary did want to build up the border. And if you are stupid enough to think that my opinion is what Hillary acts on, that's your problem. Oh, yeah, he said, those people leave the country they soiled and come here and soil ours. Oh, yeah, well, fuck you. Refugees in countries that have kings never had a democracy. And those peasants, they soiled their country. They soiled their country. And you believe that, and you think that you're going to be able to impose an inheritance tax when you believe the poor people are what are soiling these countries. The poor people of Syria, can you believe what they're fucking doing over there? They're wrecking that place. Stop making targets of yourself. It's a psychotic level. And unfortunately, even when you're not having the aphasic dementia with the semi-temporary amnesia, you believe that. You always believe that. The white man's burden. Oh dear. You know who else is arguing on your side of this in the videos I've made to you? These race supremacists. You could tell how well a country's doing by its per capita wealth. And I said, oh yeah, really? So Arabs are the best? I thought it was the oil. Oh yeah, in that case it's the oil. Well, that's different. You gotta exclude the oil companies and the countries and then you move. Oh, but you're stupid, Gary. You're making yourself stupid with this kind of stuff. And I'm starting to have to think that it's an act. And you're covering with, oh, I have an anxiety thing where I have to just call people cunts and stuff. You gotta understand. It's like a gender choice. Um, but maybe it's just an act, and your channel is actually an act because you're one of these people who wants to be popular like the amazing atheist. You haven't got 300,000. So you're pissed. So you decide to lie your ass off. You should be thankful I even know your stupid opinions and stuff. That I've studied your antinatalism argument. Most people won't give it the time of day. That's how I feel when somebody learns my opinions, especially when they realize they don't totally agree. But to learn how they work, there might be a gear or piston in there they could use, or they might be able to add some idea. But maybe not. Maybe we just go, well, there's my tool, here's your tool. Oh, look, interesting. They're different. That's how I do it. But see, I like remembering more than one thing about a thing. You don't. You like to remember one idea, your idea, and when it changes, even your old version of your idea, not me. I like to remember the train of thought and then all the trains of thought, and they all get woven together in a sphere of information that you just, you don't get it. You have no idea. You, you could talk to me about something and say the opposite, and maybe you know better, but whether you're lying or just having your temporary amnesia thing, it comes to much the same, right? You just can't pay attention to a thing long enough to understand it. Um, yeah, I don't. This was I got to the part about the profile of an asshole American. That was really hurtful. Nepotism and inheritance. You just lie drafts off about that. I think there's a problem of a nepotistic power handoff in this country. We've talked about that a lot. This is an area where we have an overlap of agreement. And I've even said that, the main issue is the money's sitting there and it's got to be moved back into the economy. That's where the money for the jobs and everything else has to come from, or doesn't happen at all. You believe some of these things should happen. So it could come from various ways. And I've said, yeah, maybe the inheritance tax. I mean, the rich people will figure out ways around that, right? To put things in trusts and pay their kids' salaries and stuff, right? So there's issues. I know you think that. And I said, yeah, maybe on that, but that's not enough for you. So since maybe that would, I mean, that could be part of a plan, or maybe the whole plan would do the math. You are going to go convince everybody right away before anything else, because I know that's important to you, that other people agree. That's super important to you, right? All of your ideas are based on, wait, are people going to think this is crazy? But since I say, yeah, that's a possibility, then you're going to go, I'm against that thing, and I'm the most evil American, and uh, I'm a pantheist that's into human exceptionalism. No, I think all life has inner emotional. Remember, you probably remember now. It's just during your rant, and the microtubules bubble up in your brain, and you're like, Brian, you're a cunt. Oh, here's a note where I was just lamenting that you support slave labor overseas because you don't care about their suffering. You say you act like you care about all humans, but you want to kill all humans, but their suffering doesn't really matter. Not to you, I mean. Obviously, I think it matters. Um, Now, the humans are special thing did lead into because I am a meat eater. I've been a vegetarian in the past. I've acknowledged that I think that's the way humans are going, have to go, and that's the more moral direction. On the other hand, I didn't claim I was a perfectly moral creature, and I'm not using that as an excuse either. My main problem with it is the torturing of the animals. I think an animal that lives in the wild and hunts, that's not a human exceptionalism. Other animals live in the wild and hunt. Now, should we grow beyond even hunting? Probably. I think we probably are doing that already. And probably morally, I think that's a good direction to go, um, which is why I say that being a vegetarian is more moral. But whether it is moral, whether it's a cop out, whether it's like, oh, people shouldn't admit that they aren't morally perfect. All of those arguments, those are real arguments, but they're aside. I don't eat animals because of my pantheistic religion says humans are special and get to do that. It's more like in evolution, animals eat other animals, some of them. Humans have been one of those kind of animals, and I was sort of introduced to it that way. It's something we can outgrow, just like we should outgrow enslaving people in Bangladesh. I'd rather just let those Bangladeshis over here and pay them a minimum wage. Um, you want them over there where you can keep them suffering, and you don't eat animals, but you're basically eating Bangladeshis, which is not it's not okay. Oh, single slit. You brought that shit up, and it's like you don't focused enough. You bring up single slit in this video. Oh, good. You say I've never explained the interference lines in a single slit interference. Well, hey, genius, fucking why don't you catch up? Single slit interference has a name. It's called diffraction, and the explanation. Oh, you could go to the Wikipedia page. I happen to believe the principle of that Huygens Fresnel principle that mathematically when you have a line of a wave going along, right, and you cut it off with a slit, and then there's the line, every little part of that wave, if it's a water wave, is going up and down, right? So it's going up and down. If just one little drop was going up and down, what would happen? A ripple would go out in a circle from that spot. And the wave front is just as if there's circles going out from all of the spots. And if you do the math, which you had to do in college, If you do the math, you'll see that what happens, the end result of all those overlapping circles, is that the line keeps going straight, except for on the line, there gets to be the band patterns that you see on the side. And it's like, I know you don't agree with that or any real science, but you're saying, I never have answered it, hasn't been answered. I have. I give you a citation. I've also explained it in videos, um, but mostly it's the citation, right? If you want me to prove I understand the principle, well, I just told you the basic part that is all that I need to understand for my point to explain to you the interference lines that occur in diffraction, which you call single slit interference. That's the explanation. There's a mathematical explanation for why propagating material waves through a material have there's such a thing as diffraction lines. You say that I will refuse to answer that, and you will keep saying that. And I've always assumed it's because you have a dementia where when you get ranting, you have like a temporary, or maybe it's permanent amnesia, and you don't remember like who you're talking to, maybe, and you got ideas that really are attached to somebody, but it's a different person, or the ideas are all floating around with the people. And you do remember you're talking to me, but the ideas you can't remember which ideas are connected to me, or maybe you just don't know any of those things. And it's many of your words, maybe when you say cunt, you're not even thinking of me at that moment. It's hard to tell. It's something psychotic level of craziness, though. I think that's pretty fucking clear. So I will not apologize for not learning more about Jesus Freak's daughter's condition. I have read your Encyclopedia Dramatica page, though. So if they put it in there, um, yeah, youth seem to think there's a robot economy and humans don't build things anymore. Building the roads like taking care of a pet now. Maybe you should go take longer walks. That's all I'm saying. You told me. Okay. So, I'm a useless, dangerous moron. See, that kind of thing I'm fine with. You could say that. I mean, I know how to translate that from Gary speaking to English. Um, it's not like those other ones that are just kind of like, come on, you don't need to lie so obviously, right? We know you have no amnesia. You're just a big fat liar, right? No, probably it's the amnesia thing. Um, oh, you said I wouldn't be working on infrastructure like the Hoover Dam, but then you realize he probably will say he is going to do things like the Hoover Dam. Yeah, fucking bigger than Hoover Dam. For example, look up Hetch Hetchy. They need to blow that dam up or take it down brick by brick. I don't care. They need to let all the water out, take down the dam, and restore that place. They need to clean up the Superfund sites. That's $1 trillion or $2 trillion of infrastructure that has to happen, or it's going to keep poisoning people because it's already poisoning people. Those sites are really bad. You should read sometimes, just anything, but specifically also some of the sites on the Superfund site. Rivers where you can't even put fish back in them. And that there isn't even a theory of how you would clean or mitigate that up. But there's other ones that could be cleaned up. And you go, but yeah, but they just put concrete. Yeah, they do whatever they have to, and they should put concrete and then go back and dig it up when they invent a machine to do. Let's get on doing something about it, or putting fences up or something. Okay, excuse me. And yeah, I would, so there are Hoover Dam level things, and I mean, you just don't. I mean, I know people that weld and work in these kinds of projects. They exist, and we don't actually have enough people to have. If we had spent that $1 trillion stimulus on actual infrastructure, we wouldn't have had the people to do it. As a matter of fact, we don't have enough workers in Maine, and it's mathematically obvious. It's been brought up. People have the emotional argument, like you. They're scared sissies that an immigrant is going to bring a strange smell near their house and then rob and rape them. Um, so that's what the argument's about. Because as far as jobs, we need people willing to accept minimum wage, which, by the way, we just passed the thing to raise that to 12.50 over the next couple of years. He went on and on about putting horses in front of carts. Let's definitely do that. Let's definitely do that. But let's not pretend that we were talking about the priority. Like you made a whole, I don't know how many minutes of your rant is like what you should do first. I the issue of immigration comes up. I didn't say open the borders right away. For one, I know that it's not possible. With all you scaredy cats would just freak out, you'd become a problem, right? So we have to deal with that. Um, it will take a while before people even want to have sensible, old-fashioned immigration. Obviously, the borders are going away. Eventually, you'll be able to go all around the world, just like you can go between United States and Europe. The whole world will be that way. No, that's impossible. Well, yeah, no, that's what's going to happen, moron. So you're talking about how me wanting to tax rich would be fine. You could get an agreement there, even though then you went into that thing where you had the temporary amnesia. Um, and then you actually said, make that plan secret. No, that's not why I do this conversation. I am not trying to have a secret plan so that you could think you agree with me and maybe I could convince you to vote for Hillary by having a secret plan. No. First of all, Hillary isn't for open borders, and if you think that, you're having one of those dementia amnesia attacks right now. Okay. And I know because I am for it. Same way I know that Obama is not a communist because I know what a communist would have done, when the banks collapsed, nationalized them, when, when they bailed them out and let them run free and make record profits. That's not what communists do in that situation. I'm not going to have. You want to be a big internet star, YouTube star, movement creator, and everybody seems to want that on here, huh? No, not everybody. Because I've subscribed over the years, I've found a lot of people that are not into that. And when you talk about me being into meeting crazy people, it's because so-called crazy people aren't as into that. The people you're calling crazy. But then over time, I find out some of those people also are into that. It just wasn't obvious because they're ineffectual at it or whatever. It hasn't happened. It didn't look like they were trying. I look like I'm not trying to make my channel more popular, and I'm actually not. To me, the only pressure for that is to have a critical mass of, you know, when we first started out and you put up a video and, nobody's watching it. That would be a problem because then there's no comments and there's no feedback. And then it's like a public journal, that you don't get feedback. I want feedback. And I want honest feedback. And my only commitment to all of you is to be honest. So I'm not going to have a secret plan on anything. And I don't care which things sound worse or which things sound best. Most of my ideas sound mild and at least reasonable. Like, I don't want to kill everybody like you do. And I don't, I'm pretty easygoing about stuff. It's not because I'm trying to have palatable ideas. My ideas are not particularly palatable. And a lot of them in my life, society's coming around to. Like my whole life, I was like, sure, why can't gays get married? Why not? And people are like, no, like, how about we call it something else? Civil, they should have all the rights. How about that? The whole life. I don't know. Oh, of course. Those same people that are like, yeah, of course, that's what I would think now. They didn't agree with me back then. They're still the same people, still alive. They didn't agree back then. And I don't care about the ideas that that's not going to happen in my lifetime. Doesn't matter. There's people thousands of years ago that were against slavery. Oh, settle down there, big fella. Don't say that. People don't like hearing that. Yeah, it's philosophy. We talk about it anyway, right? I think paramecium are alive, right? You don't. You don't think they have an inner life. You think it stops at a point that you'll tell us if you ever start doing biology science videos. All right. So what is that? So that's 30 minutes. Jesus. Okay. So there's some people comments. I don't think Gary actually voted Trump. I was saying it was the equivalent, in the same way he said my position on his view that there's a problem with nepotism in government and power and wealth, that there's a problem with nepotism basically in the wealth and power structure, and that he supports a more complete kind of a inheritance tax. As far as I know, 100% of what you have goes to the government when you die. And I've been open to that. I have my alternate thing that I think is more sensible, but he equated that to some sort of thing about me being pro-nepotistic and just a typical kind of American that wants Trump. So I just like back at you. I don't think Gary. I think Gary told me he wasn't going to vote this time. When he's calm and addresses the point directly, I like to listen to him. My name says, yeah, me too. In those moments of lucidity are useful, and in one-on-one we have that. He's talking to his audience to some degree and thinking about them and not just who he's talking to, I think, with videos. But also, I did try to be understanding that, I totally basically show that he's just playing this white man's burden thing and he doesn't really care about the suffering of people in other countries and in Bangladesh. He says it has to be done. He agrees with the open borders for businesses like Hillary, and then says he couldn't vote for her for reasons that she actually did make as clear, but nobody believed her because it's like, oh, we don't want to. We got our own idea of what's going on. Yeah, that's basically it. My name characterizes Gary as I analyze what you must mean according to my philosophy, then tell you how stupid it is from my interpretation. Yeah, but when he actually goes the opposite, like saying, I'm a pantheist and I'm advocating that humans are special, when I've always said that we're just animals, and in fact, I don't think having this internal theater is even that special. I think all life has it. So he could disagree with that, and he does, but he can't tell me that I'm on the other side of an argument we've been having for years, except for dementia. Temporary amnesia, permanent dementia, temporary amnesia that happens when the microtubules all get frayed in there. All right. Turn my volume levels up. You turn your volume level up. Get some speakers. Amplification. By the way, I'm going to clarify his last thing. I say open borders in the same way like liberal. I never like the word liberal. I like progressive. I like libertarian, liberal. But I happen to believe things that count as liberal issues. So I'm not going to try to misrepresent myself to people. So it's like I'm a liberal. It's the same thing with most activism. I'm mostly interested in peace activism because I believe in this chain of events from war to slavery to all of the oppressions that we see systematic. I think there's this chain of events, but I'll go help other humanitarian causes in the name of peace, in the name of stopping war. Big picture, I think it's a part of the big picture. And so that makes me, oh, I'm a labor activist as well. Or I have their back. So when I say open borders, it's because I don't want to sugarcoat it. But the reality is, it's not open. I believe in permeable borders where human beings would have a right to go from one side of the border to another. But you could check for diseases and criminal records, and if people have fruit like they do when you go into California, that would be okay to check for things like that, that were legit. On the other hand, if you don't have a criminal record and you don't have tuberculosis, but you do have some oranges, they still have to let you go through, but they could take the oranges. So that's how open. And this is going to happen. It is going to happen in the world that you could travel as easily between countries as you now can in the European Union and the United States, both set up as separate countries but with good economic freedoms. That's going to happen. It's going to happen. If you don't think it's going to happen, then you're emotionally blind to one of the most obvious trends, the basic trend of history. You don't get it. You don't understand it at all. And that would be Gary.